So, I'm sort of going through my book collection after I was talking to somebody earlier today, and this is one of my many reference and research books. I also keep around thesauruses, all kinds of stuff, got tons of books. But when it comes to particularly language books, stuff like that, I've always had an interest in it. I remember when I took French in the ninth grade, James Jones was my instructor, and that's when I started realizing a lot of languages are actually connected. So when you have the Spanish language, I learned French, but also learned their sentence structure is very similar, although different than English. With a lot of languages, especially English, Spanish, when you learn those languages, they have a Latin base. A lot of countries, especially the English language, Spanish language in particular, Italian, has a Latin base. Their original origin, more than likely, was Latin. So even if you don't fluently understand this, you can actually pick up, in bits of conversation because the words will be so similar to a different language. A lot of French words have been sort of brought into the English language, or you'll hear something in Spanish. You'll hear something in Spanish, and it sounds very similar to English, and it has the same meaning. So a lot of it, is just where you can sort of pick up these broken, sentences. Like I said, I took French. I have a friend that she learned to fluently speak Spanish from, guys from Mexico, stuff like that. And she could set your ears on fire with it. She could speak it so fluently and so fast. And the thing of it is, with the Cherokee language and with a lot of native languages, they are not like other things you're going to hear. They do not have a Latin based sound to it. It's not similar to a lot of other languages that you're going to hear commonly. And it's a little more difficult to actually learn it. It's a complicated language. So, I'll see things pop up every once in a while, stuff like that. And I always have a syllabary key. And of course, I have the syllabary tattooed on me. And, it's actually something that I've sort of researched myself. And the thing of it is, if you are trying to learn Cherokee, you cannot learn it unless you can hear someone speak it. The language is that complicated. Their pronunciation, their rules is actually more complicated than what a lot of people realize. Is it unlearnable? Absolutely not. But is it more difficult than a lot of people would imagine? Maybe so. But, well, you're all coughing about it, Shan. But, like I said, I've had y'all tattooed on me since I was probably about 20 or 21. I'm 44 now. But if you decide to, because I've been actually telling people about the language program, it is an endangered language. And part of the reason I've taken so much interest in learning language, and I've actually studied more than a few, is the fact that within a few generations of removing information from people, within just a few generations, within 3 to 5 generations, you can almost completely eradicate certain types of information, kind of like the Middle Ages burning of books. When they did the removal, when they had boarding schools, people were not allowed to speak their native languages. When you see the fact that these languages survived, from any of the tribes, really. When you see the fact that these native languages survived, you're actually seeing something pretty amazing. Because there was an active attempt to force people to not speak it anymore. With the active attempt to force people to not speak it. To force them to sort of be bilingual, to try to make the kids maybe not be bilingual. Within 3 to 5 generations, that language could have been totally lost. How many of you know your 5th great grandparent? How many of you even knew your 3rd great grandparent? If you had 5 generations in your family, then you had a grandparent and a great grandparent. I want y'all to think about this. If you had 5 living generations in your family, then you knew your grandparent and their parent. A lot of people actually consider that sort of a rarity. So y'all think about this in a real-time generational sense. You're lucky if you knew your grandparent and their parents. If you got to grow up and know them all the way to your adulthood, you were actually a lucky person. So when you were talking about someone who can, speak a particular language, and that language could be wiped out if no one was allowed to speak it for 5 living generations or less. So before anyone sort of turns up their nose and you know, gets a little snooty about it, this could have died out easily. But it did not. It's still here. So if y'all happen to see it around, I know the Cherokee Nation West sort of had a language program going on. If y'all want to look into it, you are actually looking at a living language that someone literally tried to stomp out. So give it a look. CherokeeNation.org. Check it out.